Descent of the Demon God. By Hanjo Wheelia. Chapter 172. Bad Friend. Part 1. How did you know? The shocked Huang Heil asked. To say that he guessed the name with a few words was strange that the guess was correct. Again? Chen Youwen thought about the involvement of MS Group. Unknown to them, there was no place that MS Group didn't touch, from politics to gatekeepers to Murim. It was surprising that even this clan, which was horrible to control, was destroyed. How did you get involved with them? At Chen Youwen's question, Huang Heil recalled the past. About 350 years ago, it was the time when Blade God's sixth martial clan, who hadn't been able to establish itself in Murim, was slowly trying to rebuild itself. 350 years back? Chen Youwen was puzzled by the story. He had no idea that MS Group existed since then. The three of us, who were still alive as a result of the spirit beast's blood, were looking for a way. People hadn't seen the spirit beasts again. It took a lot of manpower and time to find them. Then came word that an Imugi had been discovered on Mount Aji. It was the last spirit beast in this world. So we moved directly to catch it. Imugi was the leader of all the spirit beasts, and the earth dragon was stronger than the others. So the three of them went out to hunt it. We fought the Imugi for half a day. The three of them were strong because of their long lives. Even though they had to work together to defeat the Imugi, an unexpected thing happened while they were reviving their youthful bodies. Those people suddenly showed up. It had to be around the time they were all physically exhausted. An ominous energy emanated from a man wearing a silver mask and a man with red brows. Red eyebrows. Chen Youwen was reminded of someone when he heard the phrase red eyebrows. However, he soon became more interested in the ominous evil energy. Was it him? The heavenly killing star called Cho Yushin? Huang Heil continued to talk. We were wary as they suddenly appeared. Huang Heil and the other two didn't notice the people until they appeared. And they were well aware that these were not ordinary people. Then the one in the silver hair suggested, "I've been keeping an eye on you for a long time. If you join us, we will be able to stand as the strongest rather than a heretic in Murim." They couldn't pass on the suggestion. It could have been different at any other time, but they were exhausted in the battle with Imugi and thought that it wasn't a good idea. If you want to hold hands, shouldn't you at least reveal your identity? As a response to Huang Heil's question, the man with silver hair said, "Right. I believe I misunderstood something. We are part of the Musong group." Wait. Chen Youwen interrupted Huang Heil's story. Huang Heil was perplexed as to why this man said that, which prompted Chen Youwen to pause for a moment and think. A coincidence? Chen Youwen was quite shocked at the answer which came out from Huang Heil from his question. And that group was MS Group? It is. Chen Youwen's face hardened. There was a time he was worried what this MS meant, but there was no record of it on the internet. No way. Musong was Chen Youwen's fake name. It was also the name of his descendant who had given him the nano machine. Has to be a coincidence, right? He wondered if he was simply overreacting. Names could always overlap. The name Musong couldn't have belonged to one or two people in the entirety of China, and it wasn't weird for companies to make up names either. According to his subordinates who were stuck in ice, the descendant was going around with the name of Song Muchen as a seer. Must be a coincidence. No matter how he thought, there was no way Chen Musong would create such an organization. There was no connection at all. Huang Heil, who noticed the seriousness, asked, "Is there something wrong, Demon God?" "No, continue." It was suspicious, but Huang Heil continued. "We were exhausted and not in perfect condition, so we ended up listening to them. Their condition, however, was that they give them the Imugi's core and corpse. In other words, they desired the entire beast. It was impossible for Huang Heol and the other two to give up on preventing the aging process. In the end, we fought them. Must have been tight. And all three of you? No. There was one who left. Huang Heol spoke while trembling. The old man who didn't hide that evil energy had said. Blade God 6 Martial Clan. Hoo. I've finally met you. It's unfortunate that you're like this, but I'm hoping you'll be able to satisfy me. An old man who uttered words they didn't understand. As soon as the man was done speaking, he extended his arms towards them. With trembling eyes, Huang Heol said, I have met the demon god and many more monsters in my life, but never a monster like him. Despite their exhaustion, the three of them worked hard. Of course, Huang Heol hadn't yet reached the heavenly master level at the time, but he never imagined such a crushing defeat in just a few seconds. If Ma Huyan and the other hadn't tried to stop them, I wouldn't have been able to get out of there. Huang Heol's eyes turned red at the mention of Ma Huyan. His face was full of anger and sadness. Huang Heol, the last of them, tried to escape from there. I never dreamt that I would run away again in my life after the fight with you, demon god. Huang Heol, who barely escaped with serious injuries, soon went to the base of the clan and then spread rumors that all of his companions and himself were dead. In the beginning, they sent out a lot of spies to find out if I was alive or dead. Huang Heol had to hide himself like a dead mouse. At least until they disappeared, he thought that he should increase his strength. Contrary to his wishes, those people had invaded China a long time back and exerted influence in politics, the economy, and Murim. I had to change course in order to survive. He wouldn't survive, judging that they were called Bad Clan, so he tried to change. At that time, we put on the pretense of being good and pushed into the Murim. From then, they were members of the association. Chen Yuan nodded his head. So that was what happened. It was only then did he come to know why the Murim Association let them be in. The Murim Association was like the forces of justice, which hated the Blade God 6 Martial Clan. I heard news that the group had suddenly disbanded 15 years back. The reason was unknown. It seemed like something big had happened to the MS group. And the Blade 6 didn't want to miss the chance. Since then, we have been tracing them. We traced and pursued their whereabouts, seeking our revenge. His voice trembled as he emphasized it. It was even more intense than his anger for Chen Yuan in the beginning. Chen Yuan asked, If you don't want to, you don't have to answer. Is it because of Ma Huyan? As Chen Yuan asked, Huang Heol expressed sadness. It wasn't certain, but he thought that the name belonged to a woman, and that this man had a deep relationship with her. Revenge. Whether it was love or companionship, Huang Heol's sorrow for losing someone important had to be filled with revenge. At that moment, Chen Yuan asked another thing. Wait. You have been tracking the MS group for 15 years? If it was the Blade 6, these bunch were famous for spies and having information no one had. So Huang Heol yelled at Chen Yuan at that. Demon God, you came in and ruined it at the crucial moment. What? Chen Yuan was taken aback at the accusation. What is that supposed to mean? I found after a long search that they were outside the gate barrier and not inside. Okay. It was more information that Chen Yuan knew. The result of tracking on a group for 15 years. However, thanks to the prison scenario that broke out, we turned out to be targets even in the eyes of the government and Murim. They were all put under surveillance as a result of Chen Yuan's fabrication. Unexpected events occurred. Furthermore, Chen Yuan entered into an exclusive agreement with the Ministry of National Defense, which meant that no organization other than the Yongchun Group was allowed to leave the gates. So you came here? At the question, Huang Heol coughed. Blade 6 had no choice but to risk their lives in this war with the Yongchen group. It wasn't just to avenge some thousand-year-back revenge. Things just fell in like that, demon god. You are a funny one. Chen Yuan clicked his tongue, looking at the man. If he had considered Chen Yuan his enemy, he would have killed the man, despite his body being weak. But in the end, the old man himself had given up, knowing he couldn't do much. Still, it is unfortunate. Huang Heol looked at the night sky. It was the first time he had said what had happened to anyone. The pillar of the current Blade God 6 martial clan. He couldn't show weaknesses like this, but he felt more at ease after speaking. Phew. Huang Heol, who eased his heart, opened his eyes and asked. I have a request to ask from the demon god. If you two have something against the MS group. Against? Crack. Huang Heol clenched his teeth. Erase them from this world. With that, he stuck out his neck. There was no more hesitating as he said everything he needed to say. It felt unjust that he couldn't exact his vengeance, but this seemed fine. Chen Yuan then said to him. Well, fine. That request, let this bad friend do it. A smile crept on Huang Heol's lips at those words. It felt like his loneliness, pain and emptiness had been filled after a long time. Thank you. Huang Heol felt at ease. The sound of Chen Yuan raising his sword was heard. Huyan. Your revenge is left to the monster who can get it. We haven't seen each other in these long years, so don't criticize me when I see you. Slash. Tack. The cold blade stopped on his neck. Huang Heol opened his eyes. What are you doing? To which Chen Yuan answered. It is a waste to kill you. What? Cha-cha-cha. The sky demon's sword turned into a wrist guard again, which resulted in Huang Heol raising his head in anger. Are you sympathizing with me? He didn't want sympathy from anyone. Chen Yuan answered. No. This is not sympathy. I am just trying to use you. Use me? Chen Yuan smiled. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Chapter 173. Bad Friend. Part 2. Pwa. Pwa. Fireworks soared into the sky as yellow fireworks decorated the night sky. Seeing the night lit up, the 6 martial masters couldn't hide their doubts. Stop the war? The yellow firecrackers meant stop, red meant retreat, and blue meant gather. The battle hadn't even started for long, and they hadn't even stepped into the site yet, but they were asked to stop. Back at the north of Yongchen site. Blade Master. What do we do? Yun Mukayan was perplexed by the questions, and his poor physical conditions didn't help. Cha-chong. He looked at 2 people who were constantly clashing with their weapons. He arrived with another Blade Master, trying to take down the red-haired man his partner was fighting. We haven't even subdued this monster yet. The monster they were dealing with was Huban, and while they were struggling to break through this one enemy, then the signal to stop was sent into the night sky. Is that your signal? Hee hee. Cha-chong. Huban excitedly spread out his sword as he asked the Blade Master he was fighting against, but neither of his opponents answered. Bastard. They didn't answer him because they couldn't afford to let their concentration on him waver. What should we do? They couldn't figure out their next step, and Yun Mukayan, who had fallen down from just one kick, couldn't understand if it really was a signal to end the fighting or if the signal came from the enemy tricking them. It was then. Ta-ta-tack. Senior. Stop fighting. At that instant, someone who Hubang assumed to be one of the cult members sent him the message through telepathy. Hubang widened the distance between himself and the Blade Masters to ask. What? Stop the fight? Blade 6 wasn't the only one who gave the order to stop, as signals to stop the war came from both sides. Pang! Another firework lit up the sky, and this time it was the blue signal for gathering. The members of Yongchun Group and Blade 6, who were fighting for their lives 30 minutes prior, were able to gather while facing one another. In the midst of the war, the Yongchun Group executives and the Blade 6 executives had gathered. Without knowing what was happening, everyone gathered under the call of Chen Youwen and Huang Heol, who were the heads on both sides. "Blade Lord, why did we stop?" Butchery Blade Master Yang Mun asked, still glancing at Wang Xin. The wounds on their bodies showed the ferocity of the battle between the two warriors. GM Songriyang had nothing to say. Although he was the chairman of Blade 6 and the Blade Lord, he couldn't disregard the old man because Ayao Ryong was his ancestor. On the other hand, Gu Changse was looking at Chen Youwen and not Mara Yun, who he had been fighting. "This is the one Ayao Ryong spoke off. Chen Youwen defeated the one called Blade God, so there wasn't anyone in Blade 6 who wouldn't be angry with him. Is he that strong?" The aura they were feeling was ordinary. Of course, those who were stronger could mask their presence, but the Blade 6 warriors were all curious. "I want to fight him. I want to test his strength." Yong Daocheng, one of the Blade 6 martial masters, sighed. "It's starting again." Gu Changse was one of the most interested in martial arts, known for his strength because of his will to learn from those who were stronger. He had even fought with Ayao Ryong before, though he was beaten to death. "Hey! That monster will not spare you like Ayao Ryong." One of the Blade Masters warned him just in case. He knew that thousands of people of his clan had died in the hands of Demon God, and any curiosity would cost their lives. "You want me to miss this chance?" Gu Changse licked his lips. As a Murim warrior, the strongest known existence was right in front of him, stimulating his urges like a gourmet dish made by the best chef. "I just need a cause." The current situation was a ceasefire that stopped the war. GM Songriyang pretended to be fine, but his legs were trembling as he suffered from internal injuries. Moreover, it was evident that Ayao Ryong hadn't been able to defeat the demon god. "I'm sure I'll get a chance." Huang Heol stepped ahead and opened his mouth. As a representative of Blade 6, no, as Huang Heol, one of the spirit blood users, I will inform you of the reason for bringing you all here. He was speaking normally, but his voice was heard by everyone. Unlike the members of the Yongchun Group who were puzzled, those of Blade 6 were anxious. They had predicted this outcome to some extent, but all hoped that the declaration of anything but victory wouldn't come from Huang Heol's mouth. "There has been a long-standing grudge between us and the Sky Demon Order for 1,000 years, but it is now time to change that." "What? What's he saying?" Both sides were looking at Huang Heol with their utmost concentration. "Unfortunately, both us and the Sky Demon Order share a common enemy, MS Group." Whisper. A change occurred in the eyes of Blade 6 members, recognizing their worst enemy as MS Group. After the collapse of Black Sky Company 17 years ago, they were no longer obsessed with the Sky Demon Order. However, their situation with MS Group was different. Because they were constantly at war with one another. After a long conversation with Chen Ma, we figured out that the MS Group has been setting us up to wage a meaningless war between us. Huang Heol paused and looked around as he said, "Are you going to turn our heads at this trickery?" At Huang Heol's words, the Blade 6 members shouted. "We can't stand by." The voice of people resounded. Huang Heol was adept at commanding people, and the Blade 6 suspicious stance transformed into a self-righteous stance in an instant. When the desired atmosphere was formed, Huang Heol said, "I declare it, starting today, I will form an alliance with the Sky Demon Order to end this meaningless battle and face the true enemy." Wah! When Huang Heol finished speaking, all of the members of Blade 6 shouted. From their point of view, the word alliance was a lot better than surrender, which they had all been fearing. Huang Heol looked at Chen Youwen and coughed, causing Chen Youwen to smile. He's quite proud of himself. Originally, Chen Youwen suggested the man join him, but Huang Heol refused the offer right away. I can't do that. Huang Heol promised that anything other than integration could be possible. However, he said that he would never enter another clan or risk his clan's members, displaying a final bit of pride in front of his rival of 1,000 years. Thanks to my whim. Huang Heol looked at Chen Youwen and remembered the request he had asked for on a whim. He was skeptical that Chen Youwen would even listen to the request in the first place, as Chen Youwen could have easily annihilated all the Blade's 6 members if he wanted to. Thanks for the kindness, demon god. Thanks to Chen Youwen's mercy, he was able to save face. Chen Youwen, however, was looking at the situation with a different attitude, as if seeing a different scene when he felt that something was awry. Someone shouted in the warm atmosphere, "I can't understand this." At the cry, everyone turned to the voice that came from strong blade master, Gu Changsa. Sigh. The other 6 martial masters sighed, knowing that he was up to no good. That bastard's idiotic attitude. Yong Daocheng, the Jade Blade Master, had looked to the side and shouted out loudly when their ancestor had declared an alliance, but now turned his attention to Gu Changsa. Stop it. Have you lost it? Yong Daocheng sent him a message. Slang. However, the man only pulled out his blade and pointed it at Chen Youwen. The blade god, who is your lord, will weep in the underworld. His blood is on this man's hands. How can we make an alliance so easily? At that, the other people mumbled too. Clearly what he said was true. If such a word was used, no one would blame this man for acting out. This bastard. Huang Heol stared at Gu Changsa in anger. In the past, he had cheekily asked Huang Heol for battle several times, each time being let off the hook, because he was a member of the clan. However, this was a drastically different situation. How dare you aim your blade at him? Huang. Hu Bong stepped forward in anger, causing the floor to crack from the intense energy he was releasing. In fact, all of the members of the Sky Demon Order were full of rage and murderous intent. At that moment, Chen Youwen stopped them and said, "He seems pretty daring." "Right, I do have the blood of your ancestor on my hands, so what?" Hearing Chen Youwen's words, Gu Changsa smiled. This was what he wanted, a challenge that would allow him to raise his weapon against Chen Youwen. How can a Murim warrior say that? If you're truly forming an alliance, then convince me. Gu. Before he could say more, an unbelievable energy expanded in the atmosphere, and the suffocating feeling of the energy was only enhanced further by the terrifying silence. What a strong energy! Even breathing was very difficult, and the effects of the energy weren't limited to just Gu Changsa. All of the 6 martial masters became pale, feeling as if there were swords on their necks. Step. Chen Youwen slowly walked towards Gu Changsa. With each step, Gu Changsa's face turned a more prominent shade of red. Move. I have to move my body. He tried to move his arm, but it was to no avail as Chen Youwen reached him. Drip. His face was already drenched in sweat from his fear of dying. Chen Youwen whispered in his ear. Then should I kill you all instead of forming an alliance? He spoke with a soft voice, but there was no way that the 6 martial masters didn't hear his words as all their eyes fluttered in shock. It's possible. This is Demon God. A monster. The pressure was so overwhelming that they couldn't think of anything else. In fact, this was the first time that they had such a strong pressure exerted on them. Only then did Gu Changsa realize that the alliance was nothing more than a facade to maintain the dignity of their clan. Shoo! Chen Youwen put his finger on the man's forehead. Kid. Have you changed your mind yet? It felt like the finger could pierce his head any moment. Gu Changsa gulped and said, I made a mistake. Then you know what you're supposed to say. Thank you for forming an alliance. Hearing Gu Chang'e's words, Wang Hiao trembled out of anger. Because of one stupid subordinate, the facade was no more.